If you don't know, I take night classes at the Nashville School of Preaching at Creve Hall. It's a ministry they put on there, and they basically train ministers to go out and to preach the gospel, to prepare them for ministry work. And one of the classes I'm taking this semester is Intro to Counseling. And it's been just a great class, mainly because I need some counseling, just to be honest with you. Tonight we did some genograms, and a genogram, if you don't know what that is, that's where you map out a family using symbols for their ages and stuff, and you figure out the relationships and what may have occurred in previous generations to give you a rough estimate of, or a general idea rather, of what's going on with the current generation, why the people interact the way they do and have the problems that they have or the successes that they have. One of the things I was talking about tonight is how you have patterns and you identify the patterns, and if it's a problem, you have to break the chain. We've all heard that, right? Break the chain, break the cycle. The buck stops here is the one I like to quote. And you have to identify your place in the system in order to break the pattern, stop the buck. One of the men in there said, well, I identified this and it still goes on. And the teacher said something profound. He said, well, that wasn't the normal for the people you're trying to break the chain for. And I thought, what a piece of insight. You know, I personally, I come from a family. Well, I was born to a teenage mother, and my parents were never married, ever married. My mom's still never been married to this day. My dad went on to have a successful marriage, and but I've come from a split household, and on one side of the family, that was a broken home, and the things that go with it, alcoholism, and just all this stuff, all the regular stuff that families deal with whenever they have problems. But you really, if you come from that situation and you want to stop it, you really think on it. You have to, like they said in the class tonight, you have to identify the patterns in the system to make it stop. You have to identify and remove. And I don't know. I've got 5 daughters, and so I really try to think on this, because that's a lot of weight on your shoulders. And I try to think what has historically happened in my family that I could stop for them. I've got one vein of my family that there has not been a I'll say a successful marriage, and what I define by successful is that it didn't end in divorce, or that it lasted until death. You know, because you get married, that's how long you're supposed to be married for, unto death. And I'm trying to think. It'd be, my wife and I have not been divorced, so prior to us, it has been 1, 2, 3. It's been 4 generations in a specific line of my family since there's been a successful marriage. The last person in that line that was that their marriage ended in death was, they were born in the 1800s. Think about that. And I could get into our family's specific problems, and I won't do that. But what I'm telling you is that there is a responsibility we have to our children and to the next generation to be the pattern that we want to set for our family history and our family legacy. You ever think about that? You're probably young and don't think about that. I consider myself young. I'm in my 30s, but I'm building my family legacy. And how are we doing it? How am I doing it personally? Well, by just living. You ever consider that? The things you do day to day dictate who you are on a day-to-day basis, and the person that you are on a day-to-day basis eventually becomes who you are, what your legacy is. So if you are if you get drunk every day over the course of 40 years, you know what that makes you? That makes you a drunk. If you are a jogger, if you jog every day over the course of 40 years, you know what that makes you? It makes you skinny. Okay, but you see the point that I'm working at here. We have a responsibility if we want to be the person to break the chain in our family dysfunction, just to be frank with you, then you have to do it now. You know, having the epiphany later in life and saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to get it together, that's wonderful. I hope that if that's where you're at in your life, that you do that, you're able to see clearly. But the truth of the matter is, that's not what breaks our family cycles. What breaks them is not setting the pattern, not casting the die for those that you're able to influence, namely your children. So, or maybe your grandchildren, your nieces and your nephews. Are you gonna mess stuff up? Of course, you're a human. I'm a human. But the overarching theme has to be, okay, I've seen these examples in my family and I don't want to repeat them. And you know what? Perhaps it's because you've witnessed it, or maybe it's because you've lived it. Maybe you lived it, and maybe you messed up as a youth. Well, set the pattern straight today. Maybe you messed up as an adult. Well, set the pattern straight as a role model for your grandchildren. Don't fall into the same trap because, well, you know, this is the way our family's always been. Be the person to break out of it. And the key to doing it is identifying it. You have to be cognizant of what's going on in your family unit. So, okay, well, I was thinking on my class as I was driving home, and just some of the stuff that goes through my mind was brought up in the class, and I thought that maybe some of y'all might get some benefit out of this. So look for those patterns. You're the key to changing your family legacy. You're in charge of it. So God bless y'all. I hope this helps you, and have a good evening.